Ladies, gentlemen, children of the interwebs out there, Sebastian Envy, strong style, cinephile, reigning, defending AIWF, America's heavyweight champion, of course. So The Flash. Let's geek about it for a scant few minutes because it's a movie. It's categorically a bomb at the moment, a flop, and it kind of raises some questions going forth on the state of DC movies and what's going to happen with Peter Safran and James Gunn and what they're trying to do, and if it's even going to do anything for the company in those movies going forth. So the movie opened to like 55 million. It was estimated to clear like 70, or that was the hope, that was the belief. You had all these people just raving about it being the greatest movie, superhero movie of all time, and this and that, kind of raising expectations and stuff. And then it just landed with a thud. Now, in it, they're going with the Flashpoint storyline where Barry's mother is dead and he decides to go back in time and change things. Shenanigans. He realizes as things play out that he has to make that ultimate sacrifice and go back and stop himself from stopping his mom dying. He has to give up his mom. He has to let go of the past and kind of live in the moment. Even kind of, he's talking to the Ben Affleck Batman early on, and he kind of intimates that scars are what make us who we are, and it's like best not to dwell on the past. You got to live in the present, live for the future, that sort of thing. Which is, this movie is basically Barry kind of like learning that. That's the gist of it. Goes back in time. There's multiversal shenanigans. You got Michael Keaton coming back as Batman. In the comic books, the Flash encountered Thomas Wayne, who in the Flashpoint universe, Bruce died during the robbery as opposed to Bruce's parents, and thus Thomas becomes Batman, a darker, gun-wielding Batman. His mom goes crazy. She becomes the Joker. It's a whole thing. But in this, we got Michael Keaton returning, and we were all happy about it. We were all over the moon about it. He's some of the best parts of this movie, and that's not saying much. Ezra Miller is Barry Allen. He's a very spazzy, sort of socially awkward Barry Allen, which I've said from the get-go that Barry Allen, or Ezra Miller, was grossly miscast as Barry Allen from the get-go. And that's, legal trouble notwithstanding. It had nothing to do with my opinion of them being in that role. It was terrible casting. And no performance in any of the movies before The Flash, and also no performance during The Flash made me feel any different. We see Barry is encountering his younger self, so we get this like spazzy, like 18-year-old Barry, and like the whole shtick with him got old really, really quick. You have Supergirl, and as opposed to Superman from Flashpoint. You have General Zod coming back just to do General Zod things. He didn't really do anything. Michael Shannon, of course, shit all over his coming back, which all leads to the CG-heavy battle at the end. And like I said, Barry learning that he needs to go back and let go after encountering a dark Flash. He needs to let go, resets things, although we get some cameos as we see more of the multiverse, some CG, some deep fake type of cameos from past superhero actors in DC Comics. We all know Nicolas Cage has got a cameo in it. That was actually interesting to see, considering he was going to be Superman in a Superman Lives movie that never happened. A lot of people I've seen online were pissed about the cameos and like the desecration of the memory of certain folks. To me, it's like once you've appeared in a DC movie, like you just kind of you just give up the right to have an issue with them using your likeness down the road for something like this, where they're paying homage to the past. But the whole thing is like not living in the past. The whole message is not living in the past, living in the present and for the future, yet we're steeped in the past with these cameos. So it's like they're dueling things that they're doing here. And then once Barry sets things right, it's still a little bit different because there's another cameo that comes in that kind of shows us that things are a little bit different. And it's just, that's the basic gist of the movie. I'd give it like a strong 6.5 out of 10. And some people I've seen multiple like news stories and stuff like that speculating on why the box office was the way it was, and was it the crimes and all the stuff that's alleged that Ezra Miller has done. I'm like, and then some people are saying that, oh, it's just the negative reviews that they're getting now is just people are paid to give them negative reviews or this or that. And I'm just like, no, what if it was just not a very good movie, which it wasn't. So, got to be okay with that. And it just kind of raises like I said, the question of DC films going forth. A few articles on the flop that this movie was, and it was, although Black Adam made more money than this movie. Crazy, because Black Adam was such a bomb. I read a couple of variety pieces. One of them just kind of questioned whether or not maybe it's like the whole fatigue thing and whether or not people are getting fatigued on these movies. The variety story says, perhaps most ominous for Warner's, however, is the possibility that audiences are becoming blasé about cinematic universes altogether. There have been at least 55 movies based on comic books in the past 10 years alone, most of them of interconnected mega franchises that depend on fans flocking to them no matter which superhero is in the title. So it's like, later it touches on the fact that you want to go to these summer blockbuster movies to just leave your brain at the door and just enjoy what you're seeing in front of you, not have to think about 20 other movies, or, maybe not even that many, it's an exaggeration, maybe like 5 or 10 other movies that have come before and events that have come before. You don't have to think back to all that stuff. I mean, me, fellow diehard, read comic books all our lives, we're steeped in these characters and the knowledge of their stories and their canon and all that kind of stuff. It's easy for us. But the mainstream moviegoer, you can't expect them to do that. That's why I'm kind of wondering if we're getting the diminishing returns when it comes to the MCU, because, Quantumania was a bomb. It's just, are we at that point? But I believe it was James Gunn that said that he doesn't believe it's superhero fatigue. I believe it was him that said he wasn't a really believer in superhero fatigue. He said it could be a thing, but that maybe it's just, you just have to make better superhero movies. I mean, you have Across the Spider-Verse is doing gangbusters considering its budget and stuff like that. So it's like, that's a superhero movie. It's an animated movie, so it's kind of a little bit of a different thing, but it's still a comic book superhero type of movie, and it's doing well. So it's like, you just have to make good superhero movies, and then the people will come, I assume. So Warner has an issue where they have $1.1 billion, $1.2 billion tied up in these 4 movies. Shazam, which already bombed. The Flash, which is bombed. Aquaman, which is still to come. And Blue Beetle, which is still to come. And it's been like, and some people are harping on the fact that James Gunn said that Blue Beetle is the first character of his new DCU, but Superman Legacy is going to be the first film of his DCU. And people are kind of like, well, see, Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle was made by the past regime. Aquaman 2 was made by the past regime. And another thing the article brings up is, like, people aren't going to go to these movies. And I said this in videos past, that this was going to be an issue where people aren't going to go to these movies because they don't matter. You want people to go to all these interconnected universe and interconnected movies and stuff, but you essentially, once James Gunn and Peter Safran came aboard, you nullified all the movies that were coming out because you brought them on board to reboot the universe. So those movies that still were going to come out, which is Shazam, Flash, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman, you basically said, you told the general public, these movies do not matter. You don't have to see them because we're going to retool the whole thing. So you shot yourself in the foot. You tried not to, but you kind of did anyway. Shot yourself in the foot when it comes to the general public and going to see these movies or not. So it's an issue going forth because you're having trouble with these interconnected cinematic universe type of things, and you brought James Gunn in to reboot a cinematic interconnected thing. So are people going to even care in 2025 when you get going with Superman Legacy in earnest? Are people going to care? Because you're starting over once again with Superman. And it's just, I don't know where we are with comic book movies. Is the bubble truly going to burst? Is that where we're at? Because you still have, like I said, Across the Spider-Verse did good. You have The Boys on Amazon Prime, which is doing well. You have Invincible, which is animated, but doing well. So you have these comic book superhero related projects that are doing well. I mean, we just had the Arrowverse die on CW. Titans mercifully got canceled. Superman and Lois has got one more season. They're done. Truncated season, final season, they're done. So it's like, is the bubble bursting after decade plus and nearly 100, of these movies that have come out? Are we at an end? It's going to happen sooner or later. I truly believe that it was going to happen sooner or later. But it's just, are we at that point? I mean, I want to say no because we still have Fantastic Four to come, which may not register on other people's radar, but it registers on mine. But we have if there's one thing that makes money that people care about, is the X-Men and the mutants and the whole thing around them with Wolverine and the rest of them. So I think things are gonna kind of ratchet back up once you bring in the X-Men. Remains to be seen if I'm wrong or right about that, but I really think things will take a turn for the better. It just depends on how Marvel intends to do it, because like I said, maybe just people are just getting tired of the whole MCU connectivity thing. It's just, you don't want to have to study, 18 other movies to understand some of the stuff in the movie that you're going to see. You just want to leave your brain at the door and just enjoy it, and you really can't do that. So, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. Going forward, I don't know what they're going to do and how people are going to react to it. It remains to be seen. But The Flash, for now, is categorically a flop. Shazam made 133, worldwide, 133 million worldwide. Worldwide. You want to talk about a bomb. And then there's Blue Beetle, which who knows what that's going to do. And then there's Aquaman, which is Aquaman, more so than the Blue Beetle, is steeped in the Snyderverse and everything that we're trying to get away from and to reboot and reset from. So why are people going to go there and care about what's going on in that? Just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know where we're at and where we're going, or if it'll be successful. Remains to be seen, I guess. But is it that people are getting tired of comic book movies or these interconnected universes and all this stuff, or is it just you had a terrible, I don't think it was terrible per se, but you just had a movie that was not as good as it was hyped, and far from as good as it was hyped up to be, but it just was just a kind of middle of the road movie, comic book movie. Was it because people don't like Ezra Miller and they charges leveled against them and all that kind of stuff? I don't think so, because people are still bumping around listening to R. Kelly, and we know what he did, or any other entertainer or musician that has a spotty history. We're still watching football with these players who have done domestic violence this, or it's just like we're still taking in these forms of entertainment with these questionable people. So for anyone to hinge it upon the fact that Ezra Miller has these charges, I think is short-sighted. Maybe it just wasn't that good of a movie. Why can't that be a thing? It's not because there's some fake reviews going out or people are trying to review bomb the thing or whatever. Maybe it just wasn't that good, because that's my thing. I don't think it was that good. Did it totally suck? Is it like a Catwoman level of suck? No, far from it. Was it good? It was okay. It was middle of the road. So I don't know how things are going to go going forth. But like I said, Peter Safran, James Gunn, and their vision for this DCU going forth, and them rebooting and starting, once again, one of their kind of main things being Superman. Because we just tried to start a connected universe with Superman. And it got us to here. What does that tell you? I don't know. I don't know. But those are my thoughts on it, scattered as they often are. What do you guys out there think? Let me know in the comments below. Follow me on social media. Talk to me there. Talk to me here. Until next time. Let Us Geek.